Welcome everybody to the 2020 Audi Q7 Progressive. This is the mid-spectrum for Audi's rejuvenated midsize three-row SUV. The Q7 was the original Audi SUV and it has gone through quite some extensive changes for 2020 to bring it up to date with all of the other flagships in the Audi range. So what we're going to be talking about today is those changes for this model year and how this Q7 stacks up against its competitors. And I'll do that with my ranking system at the end of the video. But in the meantime, let's talk about what I've come to discover with this Q7 that has been lended off to me for a couple days by Glenmore Audi. All of their information is linked down below. This Q7 is one of their demo vehicles. So if you want to test drive this exact vehicle, head over to their dealership on Richard Way. The Q7 is Audi's largest SUV. As a mid-size with 7 seats, it's going to have the most amount of capacity for people, but not necessarily their things. The Q8 that I've tested out as well is a mid-size 2-row SUV that really prioritizes rear seat comfort and potentially a little more cargo carrying space with a much more dynamic styling. I think for most individuals, if you're really in need of that 6th or 7th seat, that's going to determine most things for you in your purchasing decision between a Q8 and a Q7. I will say that for the 3rd row, it is strictly reserved for children. There's no way any sizable adult could sit back there for any period of time. I could barely just get into the 3rd row as it is, but 2nd row comfort is fantastic for someone as tall as me. I'm 6'4" and I could sit behind myself with no issues. And it's nice that there's some creature comforts back there in the way that in this model we have buttons that will lower the seats from the 2nd row door entrance and also the boot. But for 2020, as I mentioned, there were a fair few changes. First of all, the Q7 gets the latest interior design and all of their latest technology. We have 2 quite large touchscreens that control close to everything in this vehicle. The top 10.1 inch has your Apple CarPlay that's wireless and Android Auto. And down below, the 8.6 inch touchscreen is reserved for your climate control settings. When I tested out the Audi A6 when it first came out, it was amongst the first of Audi's products to have this latest user interface. I did an in-depth video on that system and it translates very well to all of the other vehicles that Audi's produce. So if you want a more in-depth look of this system, hit the iCard up above right now. With the exterior updates, I don't think it's as subtle or as pretty as the previous model, but when it comes to aligning it up against all of the other Audi models, it has a more distinct grille. The LED lights are more of its signature styling feature, so it's bringing it aligned to other models in the Audi lineup. Other changes for 2020, Audi got rid of the supercharged V6. It's now a turbocharged V6 engine with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. This is the same mild hybrid system that we've seen in quite a few of the other V6 Audis of recent, and you've got to think of it more as the next generation of stop-start assist, because the electric motor that is going to ignite the engine when you come to a stop is able to have a much faster reaction time than the systems of old. Makes getting off of the line and stopping and starting again much smoother. With the Q7 V6, it's badged as the 55 TFSI. This whole numbering strategy that Audi is putting onto the back of all of their models these days, I think is just unnecessary complication. It doesn't really do enough, I think. Yes, at the end of the day, as a car enthusiast, I know that what the 45 means and the 55 and anything above that, but quite frankly, I don't think it's going to be important enough for many other consumers. The other features added onto this model that I'm driving include the black optics pack, so the black grille surrounds and other blacked out style elements on this Q7, as you can see right now. We also have the upgraded driver assist system, sunshades built in for the rear passengers, and the larger 21-inch wheel package option. This Q7 really is a pleasure to drive. Very smooth, incredibly refined, and this V6 certainly pulls enough power when you really need to accelerate hard. This is a big and heavy vehicle, but when you really need to overtake a vehicle or slip into traffic, it's got more than enough thrust to take care of you, and that's before even mentioning that this car with its 8-speed transmission, you can shift manually with the plastic paddles or with the self-centering gear selector down here. I feel like the steering is the correct weighting for a vehicle like this. There also is a 4-wheel steering system available for this Q7. This vehicle doesn't have it featured, but I've tested out very similar systems in the Q8 and other Audi and other VW Group products. And given just how tall the windows are, how much glass there is surrounding this Q7, there's really no problems with visibility and parking this exceptionally large vehicle at all. I really don't have many disappointments or letdowns with the Q7. There's a couple things that I'm not so keen on. For example, I don't like how there is so much piano black plastic. It is alleviated slightly by the fact that we have this dark oak inlay across the dashboard and found elsewhere throughout the vehicle, but I would like it if this big slab of piano black plastic could be something else. I know it's there so that it seems like a very seamless integration from the piano black into the screen, but the more that I have seen this in Audi's latest vehicles, the more that I'm just coming to accept it. This thing is impervious to highway driving, just soaks up the bumps, thinks nothing of them. So for downsides, there really isn't many, only very small particular pieces. Like for one, you can't get the full LED matrix lights on this trim. You have to go to the top trim Technic to get those front matrix LED lights, whereas the back, they're standard. Also another thing with the back, despite this being the black optics pack, we still have that very distinct styling element in that satin silver that I think could have been blacked out as well. Otherwise, honestly, I think we're looking at a vehicle that has no real serious downsides. And so that concludes all of the thoughts that I have towards the latest iteration of the Audi Q7. Like I said in the video, I don't really feel like I have many qualms or issues with this Q7. It has been one of Audi's longest standing models, and really just over time they've been able to refine it and refine it and refine it to the point where, standing here today, I feel like there's no significant issues with this particular vehicle. And that's why, if you haven't guessed already, I think the Q7 is a segment leader. Built incredibly well, attractive, and certainly living up to the premium expectations that you would want to find in a brand such as this. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. If you wouldn't mind liking the video, commenting on it, sharing and subscribing, that all does the world for me. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you on the channel again soon.